So our first step is going to be pulling out the parts that are identical between these different pages into include files for the header and the footer. This is a typical way to begin the process of breaking out your site into reusable parts. So what exactly is identical? So all of this is identical up to this div class equals content. Everything past this to a point is going to be different on each page, except for the title here in the head title tag. So the part here that would be different is to the left side of the company name. Now, when we have a large section of code like this with just a slight modification in the middle that's going to be reliable across multiple pages, it makes sense to use a variable for this little bit. In fact, we can further reduce repetition by using a variable here, but using the same variable as the h1 tag in the content of the page as well. So in order to begin this process of using a header and footer file, we first need to allow all of our files to use PHP within it. So I'm going to close these out, and then we're going to go back to the examples folder and rename each of these 4 files with a .php extension instead of a .html extension. Okay, now that we've done that, then let's minimize some of these additional folders here so it's a little easier to see what's inside. And then let's just navigate to the site folder to minimize what we're looking at here. Now we're going to be using include files, so it makes sense to create a folder for these files called includes. So I'm going to create a new folder here called includes. Now to begin our header file, let's start with one of our existing files. So I'm going to copy this index.php file and I'm going to paste it in the includes folder. Now I'm going to rename this file header.php, and I'm going to open it up in my editor. So now the idea here is that we want to pull out everything that's going to be used across all of the pages. So again, everything up here is the same. Our head tag is the same, minus this title bit, which we'll get to in a moment. The menu is the same. The first part of our content where we have our left sidebar is the same. And right here is where the content starts to be different. So I'm going to highlight everything after this point and I'm going to delete it. And the only other thing we need to do with this file is change this title here to print a variable of some kind that we can set in each one of our files that's going to be including this header.php file. So I'm going to highlight this and I'm going to replace it with this code right here. It's just a simple PHP print statement. We have an opening PHP tag, a closing PHP tag, and we're printing this title variable. Now right now, this title variable doesn't exist, but at the time when we include this, we'll make sure to define it in each one of our files. One last thing we should adjust before we start using this is that these links here in the menu point to our .html files. So we should change these to point to our .php files now. Okay, once this is done, let's go ahead and save it.